Good morning, everyone. Welcome inside the Faith Loop. We are glad you're joining with us again today. We appreciate you being with us and tuning in, right?
Yeah.
That's always nice.
You're showing up. That's good.
I always think I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah, I am too.
Right? You know, that's the way it works, folks. Is you're here. Didn't wake up dead or something.
Man said, at my age, I'm glad I'm anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. It's not a fear or anything. We know where we're going. If we lay down in the grave, David said, "You are there with me." Amen. But anyway, let's get all that out of the way. I don't know why I went there, Dad.
I don't either.
Oh, but we appreciate you being with us. Today, we got some interesting thing I saw yesterday when I was looking at all the news and stuff from the old CBN News. There's an article that I showed Dad where 101 pastors from north central Ohio of all different denominations all signed a letter that had been written, and it was professionally written, no doubt about it, which to me, I think that's better. But stating what they think about the current mandates and the current state of our country and what Joe Biden is doing. And it was interesting because we've said this on numerous occasions. I believe this very much. When you look at the first century after Jesus, there was a lot of stuff going on. And we're going to talk a little bit about that because I think it's important that we understand the dynamics of what we see today and history, right? Because you have people that are dealing with situations. Do I lose my job? Do I do this? Do I do that? What is at issue here? And I am what's stated in the letter is we have at the end of it. And if you want to read the open letter, I made it easy. You can go to our website, rafministries.org. You can click on it and you can read the letter. So I would encourage you to go do that. But at the end of it, they state, we have no king but King Jesus. And I was like, yeah, I'm with that. These are the signatures that are there, the names that are on this are from all different Protestant denominations, from Baptist to Methodist to probably Presbyterian to full gospel, Pentecostal. All runs the gamut, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
I think it's an interesting thing because we've talked about for years, Dad, and you spoke to this a little bit Sunday. There's been so much corporate religion, and you use that term, and the religious business, that this is kind of a breath of fresh air just to say, hey, look, let's just look at this from the perspective of we're believers in Jesus Christ, yeah?
Absolutely. You know, Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun. And if you look back in history, and it's important that we do, you know, the man that said, if we ignore history, then we're bound to repeat it. And it's not exactly as he said it, but that's what he said in essence. If you have to look back from the time of whenever, the spirit of Adam is prevalent in the world. And the problems we have today are no different than the problems the Romans had,
right,
or the Greeks had, or any of the rest of them had, trying to live under a king or a dictatorship, trying to rule every aspect of their life, tell them when they could get up, when they could go to bed, how they could do this, how they could do that. Oh, I know it's not that extreme, but think about yourself living as a believer under the Roman Empire or in the Roman Empire. It wasn't easy, friend. Most of those times, the people had to hide. They had to keep quiet about themselves. Of course, there were those that spoke out, and many of them were killed.
Well,
and stoned to death.
Well, to your point, I want to read you something. This is history, folks. This is from the historian Tacitus, who wrote this about 50 years after all this. This was Tacitus reports the first statewide persecution in about AD 115 under Nero. And I'm going to read this because I think it's important.
It is.
He says, therefore, to eliminate this rumor, he falsely produced defendants and inflicted the most extraordinary punishments upon those whom, hated for their crimes, the people called Christians. The origin of this name was Christ, whom the procurator Pontius Pilate put to death in the reign of Tiberius. Crushed for a while, the deadly superstition burst forth again, not only throughout Judea, the source of this evil, but even throughout Rome, to which all horrible and shameful things flow from everywhere and are celebrated. Therefore, the first persons arrested were those who confessed. Then on their information, a great multitude was convicted, not so much on the charge of setting fire as on hatred of the human race. Mockeries were added to their deaths, so that wrapped in the skins of wild animals they might die, torn to pieces by dogs, or nailed to crosses they were burned to death to furnish light at night when day had ended. Nero made his own gardens available for this spectacle and put on circus games, mingling with the people while dressed in charioteer's uniform or standing in his chariot. As a result, there arose a compassion toward those who were guilty and who deserved the most extraordinary punishments on the grounds that they were being destroyed not for public good, but for the savagery of one man. And that's from Tacitus. That was what was happening.
There you are. I mean, the first accusation made, Nero blamed the Christians for the burning of Rome, when, according to most historians that I've read, he was at fault. Yet he wasn't there. He wasn't in Rome when it burned, but they all believe he had it done. And he was out of the country or out of the city to show that, I'm innocent, I didn't do it. Then turns around and blames the Christians and persecutes them. And as Brian just read, Tacitus actually was mild in his description there. The deaths that these people suffered were beyond, I couldn't say it here because we may have children watching, but it was horrible. It was terrible.
Well, and here to this point, Dad, I think it's very, very interesting to state, when we look at these things, right, we say, today, religious freedoms and all the stuff and things like that, right? People don't realize what was happening at that time. Christianity was just was called a mere superstition at the time. And when it first started, it was kind of like, it'll go away. It's a fad, bloom, blah. It didn't. It stuck around. But it didn't hold to their idea of reason and these things and science and philosophy. And what they called science then was philosophy. Today, I don't think the scrutiny is any different. What are we doing? We're following the science. We've moved faith or belief in this way to a relativistic context. There's no absolutism in it. The only absolute is science,
right?
Reason, philosophy, the same thought process. What was then is not different now.
Nothing. For instance, the Romans prided themselves highly in their ability to build. Herod, he built castles everywhere. The Roman Empire, they built the aqueduct that brought water into the city of Rome, and even modern engineers say it was a feat of engineering unparalleled because of what they did it with. They didn't have modern tools to do it with,
right?
And yet they did it. I've stood there and looked at it, and it's a marvel at how they, it decreases in elevation by just small increments as it goes, and and they were able to build their cities. They built their temples. They built all of this stuff, and they prided themselves in that. And in a way, that was science. Not science in the sense that we understand it, like a laboratory and going in there and looking. But it's a engineering is a kind of science.
Oh, sure, mathematics.
Yes, yeah. And so they prided themselves in this, and so they were going to build this kingdom that would last 1,000 years, and it did. And so. Now, it didn't last totally intact in all those ways. Rome actually went downhill, and then the Eastern Kingdom in Constantinople became the power seat where Constantine was, and the Western part kind of went downhill, but nevertheless, it was there, and it was the same ones. It was the Roman Empire. And actually, it started in Germany. It didn't start in Rome or in Italy. It started in Germany under Charlemagne. And so...
what we see in the modern time.
Yeah, what we see. So...
but going back to that ancient thought process, the context of what we're seeing today, in my opinion, is the whole idea of reason, of thought. Philosophy was about the rhetoric and how they considered and talked and put forth ideas, put forth what life is. What do why would you call it a superstition, right?
Right.
Today, they have gone to great lengths, especially since evolutionary theory was brought in by the early guys. What was Lyell? Even before,
that's where Darwin got all his information from.
Uniformity, Unitarian thought process, all that, the slow process of evolution. And it came in and it started pushing, and the Enlightenment really actually started pushing Christianity into the age of myth. And this is the context that we see early on there. That's a superstition. It has no basis in reason or philosophy, yet I always find it interesting that this is where we weigh everything, that there is no real tangibility. And I look out in the visible world, and we always want to go to natural law, but natural law goes to enlightenment and goes to this idea that the science and the things and what. Well, yeah, there's the earth is a marvelous feat of engineering. Yeah. One that we build ships that can fly in space, but this one is its own ecosystem, far better and greater than anything we can provide.
Absolutely.
I mean,
it's a spaceship. I mean, you want to get down to it, it's a spaceship. I've been around the sun 79 times in my life.
And Dad...
traveling through space.
Exactly. And today, what are we doing? The same thing. Faith in Jehovah, faith in God, has become superstition again. Mm-hmm. It's the same thought process.
That's what they're trying to make it, yes.
Because we're going to follow the science. Science has become philosophy, our understanding of the universe, our understanding of life, our understanding of existence. And as you said, what we can build, what we can do.
I think one of the greatest things that has happened to mankind in the last many years is we have actually lost our ability to reason. Mm-hmm. They're not taught how to reason. Our schools don't teach how to think anymore. They teach a philosophy, or they teach a doctrine. They teach what they want you to believe.
Right.
They don't teach you how to think or how to reason anything out. That's gone. That's over with. And when they talk about evolution, I said this some time ago, and I have this question. I've stood on the side of the Grand Canyon and looked into the canyon. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's almost beyond your comprehension. And they say that over millions and millions and millions of years, the Colorado River dug that canyon.
Right.
Well, it must have been a lot wider and bigger than it is today, because, friend, it would have had to dig something 5 or 6 miles wide and so forth. Okay. if the Colorado River was there then the Mississippi was there then, and the Missouri. I mean, how was the Colorado River older than the Mississippi? It's the same continent, same country. So the Mississippi was there. I see them all the time on the Missouri and the Mississippi having to dredge it out because it gets too full of silt.
Yep.
And they dredge it so the barges can go up and down. How come St. Louis is still here? How come? How come it isn't a big hole in the ground, a big ditch that the Mississippi dug like the Colorado did? See, that's reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm reasoning this. If you have an answer, tell me.
Because, Dad, you know as well as I do, I was driving right over here yesterday after it rained, poured, right? You could see from the street, from where they're doing a bunch of work, moving dirt and this and that, where it had flowed out into the street, and all there was just dirt, silt, all through the street because of the runoff.
Yes.
From the water. It moved the dirt.
Oh, yeah, it'll move it.
It moved it where it wanted to go. And that's why the rain, if it goes into the river, it brings all that silt with it.
Yes, it does.
And it'll fill it up.
Yep.
That stands to reason, doesn't it?
Yeah, and there's a river in Washington State
Yeah.
that runs as swift or maybe swifter than the Colorado. The rapids on that river are challenged all the time by people wanting to see if they can raft down it or canoe down it.
Whitewater rafting.
Yeah, and kayak in it and all that. And it runs as strong as the Colorado ever did, and yet it's hadn't dug a hole yet. It hasn't dug the Grand Canyon yet in Washington State.
Yeah.
They could argue that the Mississippi doesn't flow as hard as the Colorado did. Well, that river does.
Probably harder.
Yeah, and it hasn't dug anything yet. Yeah. That's reason. If you can answer me, that's fine. Give me an answer. But
right.
I'm going to reason in my mind, and I'm not going to just stand here and say, oh, yeah, that's great. Oh, yeah.
The amount of pressure it takes for water to drill rock is a lot.
And there are water cannons that can actually cut metal.
Yeah.
They cut metal with it.
But the pressure is
the pressure is way farther than the Colorado River.
We're gonna and here's the thing, folks. Here's another piece of this. If you can go on and research these things. This is from a earlychristian.com talking research and whatnot. As a superstition, Christianity was linked to magic. For the Romans, it was the same as the irrational practices which magicians and witches of the evil character used to deceive the ignorant populace who had no training in philosophy, no training in science. It's not different. Magic was against reason and was common knowledge as opposed to philosophical knowledge. The accusation of witchcraft, as well as the insanity, was a weapon with which the Roman state branded and suppressed new and suspect groups in society, such as Christianity. They did see this wasn't just toward Christianity. This is the way they thought about everything.
Yep.
We're doing the same thing.
Yeah, if it's not us, if it's not what we want, then you're on the out.
What's different today?
Nothing.
We call them cults, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're just a cult. You're a cult. You're a cult because you don't follow the science. It's reason. And we're the smart ones. We're this. It doesn't fit that narrative, and this is what we're dealing with. Is there a lot of nonsense out there? Sure. Is there a lot of nonsense in Christianity?
Yeah,
there's some.
Yeah, there's some. People take things to extremes.
If you just look at even in Islamic nations, are there people, we call them radicals, right? But there are people that are Muslims that don't think like that.
Yeah, especially the Kurds.
Right?
In northern Iraq, I don't think that way.
No. It's just, and this is the thought process in here, but yet Christianity has a special place in history. Why? because because Jesus is real.
Yeah, most people don't even know that there's different Islamic groups. There's the Shiites, there's the Sunnis. They're not all the same. They don't all believe the same.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
I think it's very interesting when you look at these things from history, folks. The word malefica, it's a Latin, the bringer of evil, caught the popular and suspicious imagination of the populace, which viewed this and everything new as intrinsically dangerous. It was therefore the cause of evil and inseparable from plague, flood, famine, and invasion by the barbarians. So this is what I think is very interesting to note. What do we see in the world today? What we're being told now that the Christian right, these groups, they're extremist groups. Mm-hmm. What's different here? And the cause of these problems and the cause of people bringing problems into the politics, and they're just what's different here?
Nothing. There's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing different. I heard this morning coming in here, I was listening to a radio talk show, and they had a guest on, and he was talking about the vaccine. And this is actually out there. This is actually being said, that now the reason that they need to vaccinate everybody is to be able to save the vaccinated from the unvaccinated, right, because we give them COVID.
Yeah.
Well, now
how does a vaccinated person get COVID? You're not supposed to.
No.
That's the reason for a vaccine.
So we have to vaccinate everybody to save ourselves from each other. And then they said that they don't know anybody that died from COVID, but they know people that died from the vaccination.
You can't say that on Facebook, Dad.
Oh, I know. I know. Bless their hearts.
Because it's misinformation.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know.
We're a cult, extremist cult.
I'm not stupid, That's the thing.
We have no king but Jesus.
Nope.
And I think it's time. This is why I told Dad I hadn't seen something like this in some time. And I want to finish out our conversation by talking. We looked at history and that part of it. But the other issue is we have divided ourselves so much. That's why I hear RAF Ministries, we're a 501c3 charitable organization. Mm-hmm. We claim no denominational context. We claim no non-denominational context. Our Lord Jesus is our light, is our guide, is the way, the truth, and the life. Do we pay attention and share and look towards other people and believers? Absolutely. We're part of a body of believers. And we have been so torn apart over denominational doctrines and liturgies and nonsense since Nicaea. And before that, Paul says, you're going to follow Apollos and you're going to follow Paul, and this one's Cephas. What happened to Jesus? Hello. We've said this before. We've allowed men like Calvin. We've allowed men like Luther. We've allowed the popes. We've allowed the overseers to divide us as people by doctrines that they say this is how you follow. This to me was something that was very interesting, because all these people just stood up and just said, we have no king but Jesus.
I like that.
Right? That's put away the nonsense of denominationalism. Put away our factions. Put away, and let's follow Jesus.
Absolutely. I've said that for years. I don't adhere to any one religious organization. I have actually been ordained or licensed by a large full gospel group at one time. I worked with them, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I had nothing against them or anything. It didn't, I worked with them, but I never branded myself, this is what I am.
Right.
I branded myself, I'm a believer. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. If I happen to minister in this organization, that's okay, but I'm not this. I'm not this. I'm not Baptist. I'm not Methodist. I'm not Lutheran. I'm not Pentecostal. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. And I try to follow his word the best I can and the best I understand it. We've divided the house.
Yeah, we have, Dad. That's true.
We've divided the house. And what Jesus say, a house divided won't stand. They can attack a house divided.
Yes.
And bring it down. But a threefold cord, Solomon said, isn't quickly broken. So,
and 101-fold cord isn't hard. Is pretty hard to break.
Exactly. And there's a song that what was it? Third Day, Slow Fade. What was that?
Oh, that was Casting Crowns.
Casting Crowns.
Slow Fade. Yeah.
Sing a song called A Slow Fade. Nothing happens in a day.
Right.
It's a slow fade. What we're seeing in America today has been a slow fade. How long has this been going on? See, people, they don't reason. They just think everything's going to be okay, and they're not watching what's actually taking place in the government. And they've got it down to the place now where they did this.
Yeah.
They finally took it over.
Yeah.
And they've done this. But it didn't happen in this last election. It didn't happen. It happened way before that.
We were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah, it's been going on, but people don't pay any attention. Yeah. We pay no attention until they appear at our door and say, you're no longer a free person.
Right.
You no longer have liberties.
You don't have any rights.
You have no rights. And then we all scream and say, well, why didn't we pay attention in the first place? It's been going on for a long time.
Right.
In Russia, it went on a long time before 1917.
Yeah.
And, it was a process. Hitler, it was a process. He started in the early 30s. And
in the 20s.
Well, no, he was in the military. He was in the Army in World War I.
Yeah, I know. But he started all that in the in the late 20s.
He was trying. He was putting certain things, yeah. And how long did it take for him to actually get control of Germany?
10 years.
Yeah, a long time. And so it don't happen overnight.
No.
Nothing happens overnight. And the problem is when it does happen, you can't fix it overnight either. Because the roots are too deep and they're too strong.
Yeah.
So what we've got going on in this country and countries around the world is something that I think John spoke of in the book of Revelation.
Yep.
I think that on earth now there are distress of nations with perplexity.
Yes.
That's what he said. There will be distress of nations with perplexity. That doesn't mean that nations are at war or going to, bombing each other. No. They're distressed. They're under stress with perplexity. What's that? They don't understand.
Right.
What's happening? What's going on? And what do you hear people saying all over the world?
Yeah.
What is going on? I mean, I watched the press out of Australia, and I hear some of the press out of Europe, and they're saying, "What in the world's the matter with you Americans? Are you are you crazy? Did you go nuts?"
But what's the matter with you Australians?
Exactly.
Look what's going on in your country. You allowed yourself just to be locked down.
Yeah, and there they are. So this morning they said there's I guess a well-known lawyer in Australia that's suing the government now. They're suing the government. Well, but how much?
Day late and a dollar short.
Yeah, well, and what judge?
Yeah.
What court?
Right.
They own the courts too, and they own the judges. So,
and those don't see sound. People say that's where everybody goes. Oh, conspiracy! This ain't no conspiracy theory, or we're to say no.
It's a real conspiracy.
This is what we're reading from the Bible. This is what's happening. This is really going on, folks. It wasn't different in Rome after Jesus.
Nope.
It's not different today. It's the same warfare. We've been talking about this and talking about this. It is the same warfare. It is the knowledge of good and evil against the tree of life. This is the war, and it's a matter of life and death.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It really is. And I'm not talking about in this world. I'm talking about eternal.
Right.
Eternal. We can say what you want to. You can call me superstitious. You can call me a mythologist. It's fact. Fact. So there we are. There we stand. And we are with those, with our brothers and sisters in North Central Ohio. There is no king but Jesus. And that's what we believe. So I hope you're encouraged by that. Go read that letter. It's very interesting. You should go read that letter. It's on our website. You can go to the article.
Very well written.
Yeah, go to cbnnews.com. The article is there. 101 pastors signed this letter. We have no king but King Jesus. We made it easy. Like I said, it's right on our front page. You can click on it, read the letter. It's very interesting. I encourage you to do it. There are people starting to stand up, but we have to stand together. Let go of the denominationalism, folks. Stand for Jesus. This is who we are. Amen?
Amen.
Everybody, we hope you have a great rest of your week. Thanks for tuning in to Inside the Faith Loop. We'll have Brother Ron Burl on with us next week. We're looking forward to having that. And we're going to have some great times. Thank you for the comments, everybody down here. We appreciate you throwing your comments in here. It's great because when you put your comments in here, people can read them. We do have to put on the armor of God. That's correct. Love that comment. That's great. That's good stuff. Let's stay after it. Please like, share, send this out. We appreciate that very much. Everybody have a great day in the Lord, and always remember to give love
and give life
and give Jesus.